Nia had always believed in love, the kind of love that made your heart race, the kind that felt like home. And for a while, she had it with Malik. They met in college, and from the moment they locked eyes, she knew he was different. He was ambitious, charismatic, and had a confidence that made people gravitate toward him. And he wanted her, deeply, passionately, in a way that made her feel like she was the center of his world. The late night conversations stretched until sunrise. The way he'd kiss her forehead before going to class. The way he held her after they made love, whispering promises of forever. She married him, believing those moments would last a lifetime. For years, their love felt like something out of a storybook. Marriage only deepened their bond. Midnight whispers in bed, playful debates over weekend plans, stolen kisses in the kitchen while dinner simmered on the stove. They built a home filled with laughter, shared dreams, and certainty that they were each other's person. Oh, but fairy tales never talked about what happened when reality started to set in. At first, the changes were subtle. Malik started working longer hours, missing dinner every now and then. Then, every now and then became every night. Their conversations, once filled with laughter and dreams, became mechanical. How was your day? Fine. Yours? Good. Then silence. One evening, determined to reignite that spark, Nia planned an intimate night. Candles, his favorite meal, a dress that clung to her curves just the way he liked it. But when Malik walked through the door, he barely glanced at her before muttering, "I already ate, it was a big day at the office." Nia sat there staring at the untouched plates of food, feeling something inside her begin to wither. The warmth they once shared was fading, replaced by an emptiness that settled deep in her chest. She clutched the edge of the table, her mind racing. Maybe this was just a phase. Maybe he was just stressed. Maybe if she held on a little longer, fought a little harder, things would go back to the way they used to be. Or maybe this was the beginning of the end. Malik wasn't a bad husband, at least not in the ways that people talked about. He provided for their home, made sure the bills were paid, and never raised his voice. But what no one warned her about was the kind of distance that grew in silence. The slow fade of affection, the absence of warmth in his touch, the way he could be in the same room yet feel miles away. Sometimes being overlooked hurt more than being mistreated. Nia felt she had become invisible to Malik and often wondered what happened to cause this distance between them. The house was always quiet now. Malik would come home late, drop his bag by the door, and disappear into his office. Sometimes she'd hear him on the phone, negotiating deals, scheduling meetings, talking with more excitement than he's given to her as of late. One evening, while waiting for him to come home, she pondered on her feelings. When Malik arrived home, she mentioned to him that she felt alone. "You should go out and do something for yourself," he told her. "Find a hobby. Take a class or something. Keep yourself busy." It wasn't about keeping herself busy. It was about the fact that he no longer saw her. She could be anywhere, doing anything, and he wouldn't notice. At night, she lay beside him, aching for him to reach for her. But he didn't, so she just stopped trying. Weeks passed with no changes. She finally worked up the courage to tell him how she felt, how much she missed him. She stood in their bedroom, her heart pounding, vulnerability clinging to her like a second skin. "Malik, do you even want me anymore?" He barely looked up from his phone. "Nia, I'm tired. Can we not do this tonight?" He sighed heavily before looking at her for the first time in what felt like days. In that moment, something in her snapped. "Yes, we're doing this right now." Nia stared at him, waiting for something, anything that told her he cared enough to fight. But Malik was already looking back at his phone, scrolling like the conversation had never happened. Tears burned behind her eyes. but she refused to let them fall. If she cried, it meant that she still cared. And maybe she did, but she was tired too. Tired of feeling invisible, tired of sleeping next to a stranger, tired of trying to resuscitate a love that had been dead for longer than she wanted to admit. She rolled on to her side, facing away from him. The silence between them stretched. It was suffocating. And in that silence, Nia planned her next move. Nia didn't sleep that night. She lay there, stiff, staring at the ceiling as Malik's steady breathing filled the room. He had turned away from her as if the weight of their marriage was just another inconvenience he couldn't be bothered to deal with. She wanted to scream, shake him, demand that he see her, hear her, but what good would it do? He had made it clear whatever love they once had was no longer worth his effort. The next morning, Nia went through the motions, got dressed, made breakfast, and kissed Malik on the cheek out of habit. But inside, she felt nothing but hurt. That afternoon, she left the house and drove aimlessly for a while before ending up downtown. The city buzzed with life, people moving with purpose, friends catching up over coffee. It felt foreign to her, like another world she didn't belong to anymore. She ducked into a small cafe, craving something warm to soothe the chill settling in her bones. She wrapped her hands around a cup of coffee, staring absently out the window, lost in thought. Then, a shift in the air. A presence that made her look up. At first, she thought she was imagining it. The way he carried himself, the quiet confidence that drew eyes without demanding them. But no, he was real, and he was looking right at her. Nia's breath caught, and then, in an instant, she felt it. The slow, burning flicker of something she thought died long ago. Desire. And the most dangerous part, she didn't want to fight it. His name was Omari. She learned that within the first 5 minutes, along with the fact that he was easy to talk to, dangerously easy. Unlike Malik, Omari listened. He leaned forward when she spoke, asked questions, laughed at her jokes. Nia had forgotten what it felt like to be seen. "You come here often?" he asked, taking a sip of his coffee. Nia shook her head. "No, just needed a change of scenery." Omari smiled, a knowing look in his eyes. "I get that." They talked for an hour, then another. It wasn't flirtatious, at least that's what she told herself. It was just nice to have someone's attention, someone who wasn't buried in emails or dismissing her thoughts like they were background noise. When she finally glanced at her phone, her stomach twisted. 3 missed calls. "Malik, I should go," she murmured, standing up too quickly. Omari nodded but didn't move. "Will I see you again?" She hesitated. The answer should have been no. Instead, she whispered, "Maybe." As she drove home, guilt gnawed at her. But underneath it, something else simmered. Malik made it home earlier than usual, hoping to find Nia there waiting for him. To his surprise, she wasn't. Confused by her absence, he sat in the dimly lit living room, wondering where Nia could be and why wasn't she answering her phone. As he picked up his phone to call her again, Nia walked through the front door. 3 calls, Nia," he said, his voice tight. "Where were you?" Her heart pounded. "I was out." Malik's eyes narrowed. "Out where? And with who?" Nia swallowed, forcing her expression to remain neutral. "Just downtown, by myself," he scoffed, running his hand over his face. "You don't answer 3 calls when you're by yourself?" His tone was sharp, laced with something she hadn't heard in a long time. Frustration, maybe even suspicion. This was dangerous. But Nia had already decided in her heart the night before, and she wasn't sure if she wanted to turn back. Nia lay in bed that night trying to pretend nothing had changed. She told herself that Omari was just a stranger, that their conversation meant nothing, but she found herself replaying their interaction. The way Omari looked at her, the way he made her feel alive. Guilt twisted inside her, but resentment burned just as strong. As she laid next to Malik, staring at the ceiling. She whispered, "Do you even love me anymore?" Malik shifted in bed but didn't open his eyes. His voice was low, almost hesitant. "I don't know, Nia. Maybe we're just fooling ourselves, holding on to something that isn't there anymore." The next day, she went back to the cafe. Nia knew she shouldn't be there, shouldn't be waiting outside the cafe, her heart pounding in anticipation. Shouldn't be scanning the crowd, hoping to see Omari walk through the door, but she was. And when he arrived, flashing that easy smile, she felt her resolve slipping away. Twice in 1 week, Omari teased as he slid into the seat across from her. "I must be lucky." Nia smiled, but it felt dangerous. "Maybe you are." Omari studied her for a moment, leaning forward, resting his elbows on the table. "So tell me, Nia, what is it that you're really looking for?" She exhaled sharply, caught off guard by his directness. "What do you mean? You're here again, with me. You could have ignored me, could have walked away that day, but you didn't." His eyes held hers, unwavering. "That tells me something." Nia swallowed, gripping the edge of the table. "Doesn't mean anything." Omari let out a low chuckle. "Lying to yourself is one thing, but lying to me, that's just unfair." She opened her mouth, but no words came out, because the truth was, she didn't know what to say. She didn't even know why she was here, or maybe she did. Omari leaned in just a fraction closer. "If you don't want this, tell me now. Walk away, and I swear I won't chase you." The air between them grew thick, suffocating. Nia should have walked away. Instead, she whispered, "I don't know what I want." Omari's lips curled into a knowing smile. "Then let's figure it out together." She should have left after 5 minutes. Should have drawn the line before it blurred into something she couldn't undo. But the conversation flowed so easily, and before she knew it, an hour had passed. Then 2. She didn't miss the way that Omari's gaze lingered on her lips. Didn't ignore the way his hand brushed hers just long enough to send a thrill up her spine. "You know, this isn't a good idea," she finally admitted. Omari leaned back in his chair, studying her. "Why not?" Nia scoffed. "You know why." "Because you're married?" He tilted his head slightly, eyes locked onto hers. "Or because you're afraid of what this means?" She swallowed hard. She didn't want to answer that. Omari reached across the table, his fingers grazing her wrist. "Tell me to leave, Nia. Tell me, and I will." Her breath caught. The choice was hers right now. She still had control, but deep down, she knew the truth. She didn't want him to leave. Nia knew she was playing with fire. Every step toward Omari was another step away from the life she had built with Malik. And yet, she couldn't stop herself. The following week, she found herself at the cafe again. It was no longer chance, it was a choice. And Omari was waiting. "I was starting to think you weren't coming," he said, his voice smooth as he leaned back in his chair watching her. Nia exhaled, settling to the seat across from him. "Maybe I shouldn't have." Omari smirked. "But you did, and that means something." She hated how easily he could read her. Hated that he made her feel like she wasn't crazy for wanting more than what her marriage had become. But what scared her most was how much she liked it. The conversation flowed effortlessly, like it always did, and before she knew it, hours had passed. When she finally glanced at her phone, she saw a missed call. Malik. Her stomach twisted. She had stopped checking for his calls months ago, but something about this felt different. Almost as if, "You okay?" Omari asked, breaking into her thoughts. She looked up at him, her heart racing. "Yeah, I should go." Omari studied her for a moment, then nodded. "All right, but don't pretend you're walking away from this. We both know you'll be back." Nia said nothing, but deep down, she knew he was right. The cracks began to show. When Nia arrived home that evening, Malik was waiting. Not in his office, not buried in work, but sitting at the dining room table with his arms crossed. "Where were you?" His tone wasn't angry, but there was an edge to it, one she hadn't heard in a long time. Nia set her bag down, keeping her voice even. "Downtown." Malik's eyes searched hers. "I called you." "I saw. I was just out." She could see the wheels turning in his head, the unspoken questions, the pieces he was starting to put together. Then, just as quickly, the moment passed. Malik leaned back in his chair, exhaling. "All right, let me know next time." That was it. No fight, no accusations, just another reminder of how far they had drifted apart. But as she turned to head upstairs, she caught something in his expression, something almost guilty. For the first time, she wondered if she was the only one keeping secrets, or if Malik had been keeping his own all along. A game of deception. Over the next few days, Nia couldn't shake the feeling that something was off with Malik. She recalled when his schedule shifted unexpectedly. Late nights at work turned into unexplained absences. His phone was suddenly always face down, and he seemed distracted, distant in a way that felt different than before. For months, she had begged him to notice her. Now, she was starting to wonder if his distance had nothing to do with her at all. One evening, as Malik stood in the kitchen scrolling through his phone, she tested him. "Who keeps you at work so late?" she asked casually, watching for his reaction. Malik didn't flinch. "You know how it is. Business never stops." She nodded, but something about his answer felt rehearsed. Before she could stop herself, she pressed further. "Then why do you always come home smelling like cologne that isn't yours?" Malik hesitated. Nia held his gaze, waiting for a slip, a crack, something that would confirm what her gut was already telling her. But Malik only smiled, stepping closer. "You're imagining things." And maybe she was, or maybe she was finally seeing the truth. Nia's heart raced as she scrolled through Malik's phone. She knew it was wrong. She had no right, especially given what she was doing with Omari. But when she saw Malik's phone light up with a text from an unsaved number that read, "When can I see you again?" something in her snapped. Her hands trembled as she clicked the message thread. The conversation wasn't long, but it was enough. "Last night was amazing. Miss you already. You free this weekend?" Nia's stomach dropped. She heard footsteps behind her, and before she could lock the phone, Malik's voice cut through the air. "What are you doing?" She turned slowly, phone still in her grip. "Who is she, Malik?" His expression shifted. Shock, then anger, then something else. Something closer to relief. Malik's jaw tightened as he took a step closer, his gaze flickering from the phone to her hand to her face. "Give me my phone, Nia." She gripped it tighter, her pulse racing. "Not until you tell me who she is." He exhaled sharply. "You don't want to do this right now." Nia let out a hollow laugh, her heart hammering in her chest. "Oh, I think I do. You've been coming home late, smelling like someone else, treating me like I don't exist." She shook her head. "And now this?" Malik's silence was louder than any confession. "How long, Malik?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "How long have you been lying to me?" His lips parted, but no words came out. And in that moment, she knew the truth wasn't just in the messages. It had been written all over their marriage for months. The unraveling. Nia's grip tightened around Malik's phone as the weight of the moment settled between them. Her heart pounded in her ears, drowning out the silence that stretched too long. She wanted him to deny it, to fight for what was left of their marriage. But the way he just stood there, staring at her, told her everything she needed to know. "Who is she, Malik?" Her voice was sharper this time, edged with something close to desperation. He ran a hand over his face inside, avoiding her eyes. "It's not what you think." A bitter laugh escaped her lips. "Oh, really? Because it looks like you've been seeing someone behind my back." She waved the phone in front of him, her anger boiling over. "Last night was amazing. Miss you already? What part of this is not what I think?" Malik clenched his jaw, but still said nothing. Nia took a step closer, her voice lowering. Tell me the truth, Malik. Do you love her? His hesitation was brief, but it was there, and it shattered something inside her. He finally met her gaze, his expression unreadable. It's complicated. The air left her lungs. That wasn't a no. She staggered back, the weight of betrayal crashing over her like a tidal wave. The man she had built her life with, the man she had once trusted beyond all reason, had betrayed her. And worse, he wasn't even trying to deny it. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, and for a long moment, she just stared at the screen. A message from Omari. I was thinking about you. Can we talk? Nia closed her eyes, gripping the phone so tightly it hurt, because she knew she was about to make a decision she couldn't take back. The crossroads. Nia's thumb hovered over the screen, torn between two men who had shaped her world in different ways. One man she had built a life with, who had now become a stranger. The other, a man who saw her, heard her, made her feel something she thought was lost forever. She exhaled sharply, locking her phone before she could make a mistake. But wasn't it too late for that? Malik hadn't moved. He stood rooted in place, his jaw clenched, his arms crossed, watching her carefully. Are you going to say something, or are we just going to stand here all night? Nia scoffed. That's rich coming from you. You had every chance to explain, to tell me what's been going on, but instead you stood there like a coward. His eyes darkened. You think this is easy for me? Oh, I'm so sorry if my pain is making you uncomfortable, she shot back, sarcasm dripping from every word. But you made this choice, Malik. You chose this. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Nia let out a bitter laugh. Then how was it supposed to happen, Malik? Were you ever going to tell me? Or were you just going to keep sneaking around, lying to my face? Malik hesitated, and that hesitation was another crack in the already shattered remains of their marriage. The weight of it all pressed down on her. I can't do this right now, she muttered, turning away from him. Now she needed air, space, and distance. As she walked toward the bedroom, Malik's voice stopped her. Where are you going? She didn't turn around. Somewhere you're not. She closed the door behind her and sank onto the edge of the bed, her breath coming in shallow bursts. Her heart was pounding, her hands were shaking. Her phone buzzed again. Omari. This time she didn't hesitate. She answered. Nia? His voice was smooth, calm, and grounding. Are you okay? Her lips parted, but no words came out, because she didn't know how to answer that question. The final betrayal. Nia sat on the edge of the bed, Omari's voice still lingering in her ears. She had whispered a soft, I don't know, before ending the call, but the truth was, she knew exactly how she felt. Betrayed, exhausted, done. The door cracked open and Malik stepped in, his face tense. Are you leaving? She looked up at him, her expression unreadable. Shouldn't I? He exhaled. I didn't want you to find out like this. Nia scoffed again, shaking her head. Oh, so I was supposed to just never find out. You were going to keep lying until what, Malik? Until she got tired of sneaking around? Until I stopped asking questions? He hesitated, and something about the way he shifted made her stomach churn. There was something else, something he hadn't said yet. What is it? She asked, narrowing her eyes. What aren't you telling me? Malik swallowed hard. It's not just an affair, Nia. Her breath caught in her throat. What does that mean? A beat of silence, then the words that shattered what little hope she had left. She's pregnant. The room tilted. Nia grabbed onto the bedpost to steady herself as a sickening wave of disbelief crashed over her. You, her voice broke, rage, sorrow, and humiliation colliding all at once. You have a baby on the way? Malik wouldn't meet her eyes. I didn't mean for it to happen. You didn't mean to. She let out a bitter laugh, her voice shaking. "You didn't mean to betray me? To build a whole other life while I sat here begging you to love me again? You didn't mean to throw away everything? It's not like that." "It's exactly like that," she shouted, her entire body trembling. "I spent months, years, wondering what I did wrong, trying to fix something you had already broken. And now you expect for me to just accept this? To what? Help you raise your mistake?" Malik flinched at her words, but Nia didn't care. She was past caring, past crying, past holding on to something that no longer existed. She turned to the closet and grabbed the suitcase from the top shelf. "I should have left long time ago." "Nia, don't." She cut him off, her voice eerily calm now. "Don't say another word. You've said enough." She threw open drawers, grabbing whatever she could. She didn't care about packing neatly. She just needed to get out. "Where are you going?" Malik asked, desperation creeping into his voice. She zipped the suitcase shut and finally looked at him, her gaze colder than he had ever seen it. "Away from you." With that, she rolled the suitcase out of the bedroom, out of the house, out of the life she had spent so many years fighting for. She felt free, running toward something new. Nia's hands trembled as she gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white from the pressure. The weight of the past hour pressed heavy on her chest, suffocating her. Malik's betrayal had been the final nail in the coffin of their marriage, and yet it wasn't just his infidelity that had shattered her. It was the realization that she had been holding on to something already gone. Tears blurred her vision as she pulled into the long driveway of Omari's home. The towering modern design, sleek glass windows, and perfectly manicured lawn were a stark contrast to the turmoil raging inside of her. She hadn't thought about where she was going. Her heart had simply led her here. She needed solace, a place where she wasn't drowning in the memories of a love that no longer existed. She needed him. Before she could talk herself out of it, she climbed out of the car and made her way to his door, her heartbeat hammering in her ears. But before she could knock, the door swung open. Omari was already there, waiting for her, his eyes scanning her face, taking in the emotions she couldn't quite hide. "Nia," he murmured, taking in her tear-streaked face. "I'm glad you made it safely. Please come inside." She hesitated only for a moment before stepping over the threshold into the unknown. Omari closed the door behind her, watching her carefully. "What happened?" Nia opened her mouth to speak, but the words caught in her throat. Her emotions threatened to spill over, and without thinking, she moved closer to him. Omari didn't pull away. Instead, he reached for her, his hands steady as they rested on her shoulders. That small act of tenderness was all it took, and the dam broke. A sob escaped her lips as she collapsed into his embrace. He held her, his arms warm and unwavering, as she buried her face against his chest. He didn't rush her, didn't ask questions. He simply held her. Nia allowed herself to feel. After a long moment, she pulled back slightly, tilting her head up to meet his gaze. "I left him." Omari studied her, his expression unreadable. "Really? Is that what you really wanted to do?" She nodded, swallowing hard. "He has a child on the way." His jaw tensed, and a flicker of something dark passed through his eyes before he exhaled slowly. "You deserve better than that, Nia. You deserve better." Her breath hitched. The way he looked at her, like she was something fragile, yet unbreakable, made her heart ache in ways she didn't expect. "I don't know where to go from here," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. Omari lifted a hand, brushing a stray tear from her cheek with his thumb. "You don't have to figure this out tonight. You need to lay down and rest. I got you." Nia wasn't just escaping the past. She was stepping into something unknown, something terrifying, something that just might be the love she had been searching for all along.